Racism and decision-making inside prisons. Recent racial unrest inside Arizona prisons has been brewing heavily since a new direction came about with the appointment of a new director in 2009. It is with reasonable suspicions that the reasons for this racial unrest is because of environmental decisions or decision-making by those in power to decide to fate over 40,000 prisoners housed inside Arizona prisons. I will cover four main areas of decision-making influences that might apply to the recent behaviors by Caucasians, Afro-Americans, as well as Hispanic and Native American prisoners. These areas create the environmental justice factor. The four areas that we will talk about are demographic influence, geographical equity, procedural equity, and social equity. The dynamics are fluid, and much focus must be put on these elements to carry out its purpose of how decision-making instruments play into the events of the past. Slippery slopes, to say the least. The agency has been successful because it has a divide-and-conquer policy to keep these races apart. This racial imbalance has a demographic influence that has also impacted community cultural thinking and behaviors negatively, and is often in conflict with races outside their local prisons. There is no doubt this creates tension between staff and prisoners daily. How much depends on the topic of discussion and the level of disrespect shown. We also need to look at the geographical equity, or the racial composition of their executive hierarchy, and decide whether or not it is culturally balanced. I am suggesting that the geographical equity in Arizona is different than many other states, including neighboring states such as New Mexico and California, because there is no balance in power in state government or a political ideology that values cultural diversity, but rather oppresses it within the prison system. Once you look closely, you will realize quickly the disproportion and recognize the power is centralized and not shared locally unless warranted to accomplish a specific goal. Look at the race of the directors, the deputy director, the regional directors, and wardens. You will find a definite pattern of white supremacy numbers versus the minority races living inside Arizona and Arizona prisons. These numbers will suggest or provide an unequal racially impacted environmental protection from abuse or harmful behaviors and acts for those of color. Thereby it is reasonable they will be treated different than others. It's human trait or human nature to do so. Looking at the demographics, one can make up your own mind. Currently, as of May 2013, the prison population breakdown is 40.4% Hispanic, 39.6% Caucasian, 13.3% African American, 5.0% Native American, and 1.7% other. Take into consideration the Hispanics sometimes join in with the Caucasians for political purposes, as the balance of power structure is often tilted towards the Caucasian race on most yards. This can also be directly and indirectly related to the prison gang structure that exists within the Arizona prison system. Those that control the largest yards receive the most compensation for their threatening and coercive methods denied by the administration that often reveal when someone gets hurt or killed. Therefore, the control of drugs, sex, money, contraband, and other illicit behaviors favor those in power. Looking further into the disparity, you will find that lack of racial equality numbers have severely impacted the minority's ability to balance what is known as the procedural equity process. This is a major influence in decision-making from the top to the bottom. Going around the geographical locations where the prisons are located, you will see the larger facilities are dominated by white administrators, and thereby controlling the majority of the prison population and in power of control or imposed to repeat and severe disciplinary actions that may result in higher custody scores, reject inmate grievances, citing no basis for such findings, and more frequently imposed placements in administrative segregation. It affects job parity and other general opportunities to work or program within the entire prison system. Last but not least, for what's called the social equity factor, where there are conflicts with the sociological order related to race, ethnicity, class, culture, customs, and traditions, lifestyles, and political power in geographical regions of the state. Translate this into a social worth or value, and there are decisions based on this assessment as well. The equity factor Influences decide who gets the job, the good jobs, bad jobs, the housing, the good housing, bad housing, exposures to hazards. The list goes endless, and as government, in this case, the prison management team makes these decisions, those prisoners that are poor will be more risk of abuse and neglect than those with stronger family or social networks, as well as political ties within the state and the regions they're housed. Therefore, when you put it all together, you have formulated a decision-making methodology for your own level of environmental justice that impacts each region in a different manner or level. This environmental justice impacts protection levels, prevention of harm, the burden of proof, proof of intent, and other factors that play into due process and equality in the manner justice is delivered. Using this criterion to make decisions on security, classification, housing programs, and educational benefit programs, those of color are not in position to attain the full benefit of all privileges and plans offered inside Arizona prisons. The backlash is poor recidivism rates for those of color and higher returns to the prison. As always, thank you for watching our video.